Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to today's webinar. Today we are going to be doing Power BI Gateway, understanding, installing, and configure. We're going to do some quick introductions. Since it's just me, that makes it much easier. Don't have to do a whole lot of introduction. We're going to start out by understanding what the gateway is. Why would you use it? What do you use it for? Who is it for, etc. Then I'm going to install it. I'm going to show you an installation, and I'm going to show you how to configure it. Okay? I've got a virtual machine set up all ready to go. Hopefully enough stuff is prepped that it'll go nice and smooth. Then we'll do a little bit of overview and additional resources because, hey, what's a Senturus webinar without the Senturus marketing stuff? I know that's what you all really come for. You all come just to see those marketing slides at the end. Given time, we will do live Q&A. And again, those of you who've attended before, you know that we try to get the questions answered in real time whenever possible. I do my best, folks. I do try. And speaking of that, who is this strange person talking to you? This is me, Patrick Powers, data scientist, consultant, trainer, Senturus Incorporated. 25 years of experience doing business intelligence, data analytics. I deliver classes on Power BI, Tableau, Cognos. I'm certified in multiple languages, Cognos, Tableau, Java, C++, and database certified in SQL Server, and I'm just straight up certifiable. I'm going to keep y'all amused here today. So let's get into it. Now that everybody's here, now that everybody's ready to go, wait, get rid of that. That didn't work out the way I wanted it to. This is what happens when they let me have the control panel all on my own. I'm not responsible. Nobody should let me adult by myself. Let's talk about the on-premise gateway. What is it? What are we doing with it? So it acts as a bridge. And it's a bridge to give us a way to access that data that's on-prem and different cloud services that are sitting out there. So whether it's Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, AAS, ALA, we can use all of this on-prem data. But let's be realistic. What are you really going to use this for? This is for that database that's sitting out in your warehouse, out in rural nowhere, that nobody is ever going to get into the cloud. This is for that app and those files that are sitting on that HR person's desk. This is for that project that Phil created 22 years ago, and it's still out there being used, and you need that data. So the gateway gives us a way to get into all of our data, not just the fancy modern cloud stuff that we've spent years getting nice and right. No, even that horrible data. Okay? So that data that is out there, any cloud service that it can connect to. Now, as far as leveraging it for Snowflake, which is a question that just came in from Hamade, I don't have an answer to that. The cloud services that I'm aware of are Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, AAS, and ALA. If somebody else has an answer to that, I'm sure they'll tell me. How does it work? So here again, these are the cloud services that are listed. But again, SQL Server, SSAS, Oracle. Thank you, Tina. So there we go. We got a real live question, real live answer. It seems that Tina is actually using it to connect to Snowflake, and it's working well. Good. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. The big thing, though, and the thing that I have seen most users use it for, is getting to those random data sources. Those data sources that aren't otherwise normally accessible through the Power BI service, through these other things, whether it's files, whether it's SharePoint, other data sources. Come on. we aren't doing a poll in this one, if you noticed, but I'm going to throw this out there. How many of you do have a data source sitting around that you wish you could report on that's sitting under Phil's desk? At least a good portion of you are shaking your heads yes right now. You're like, yeah, that Phil. So what does it do? So what happens here? The flow, cloud service creates query, includes encrypted credentials for the on-prem data source. The query and the credentials get sent to the gateway queue. Okay. The gateway cloud service analyzes the query, pushes that back to the Azure service bus. The bus sends the request to the gateway. Both the gateway and the service are implemented to only accept TLS 1.2. So we don't have to worry about security. We don't have to freak out that this is going to be sending unencrypted plain text data. The gateway gets the query, decrypts it, connects to those data sources, sends the query, runs it, back it goes. Service then uses the results. In the final step, Power BI, if you have something like a Power BI refresh, that can return a lot of data. So here's something to think about. When you start to plan this out, when you start to think about how you're actually going to leverage this, sometimes you can get a lot of data back. So for these kinds of queries, the data is temporarily stored on the gateway machine, and it keeps going until it's able to send everything back. Because remember how you're using this. Over the last decade or so, we've all gotten very spoiled, I think, in the sense that we expect that you're going to have a good internet connection every time, every place. Y'all know what I mean by that. You go to the mall and you expect to have internet. You go to the airport, you expect to have internet. You're 50,000 feet in the air and you expect to have internet. So remember, if you're connecting to an on-prem that is at a rural location or is at one of your overseas places, you got to take that in consideration. It's only going to be able to send back what it can send back as fast as it can send it back. Now, this process is known as spooling. And to help improve this, now I'm going to go over minimum system requirements in a few minutes. But understand that one of the things they recommend is the machine you use for the gateway has an SSD drive on it. Okay? So that way this spooling can be sped up and to go at least as fast as it can, because we don't want to also, I want that to go away. We don't want it to also suffer from a lag from the hardware we're using. So again, I'm going to go into this in a minute, but just keep that in the back of your mind when you're starting to plan this out and set it up. Okay? So speaking of, where does the gateway need to be installed? Needs to be installed on a server that can communicate with the on-premise data source machine. Okay? So if we're talking about connecting to a file, and that file is on somebody's desktop, that's a dangerous way to go in some cases, because we got to make sure that machine stays on, that machine is up and running, that they don't log it out or take it on vacation with them. Hey, why can't I get to this data set anymore? Oh crap, Donna's on vacation, right? We don't want that. So the gateway gets installed on a machine that has access to the data source. And I would encourage you that those data sources be on a network share, if it's in case of a file or a SharePoint, or on some type of machine that is easily accessible by the gateway machine. Okay? Think about that for a second. I really want to get to that Excel file. Yeah, but what if that Excel file is in the Bahamas on vacation without you? Okay. The on-prem AD account must match the Azure AD account because of the UPN. So when the gateway is configured, we're going to be logging into the gateway, and it needs to match the same AAD account that you would log into the Power BI service with. Got to be able to talk back and forth. Okay? It's got to be able to talk. Doesn't matter if you add an account and you're on-prem. If the account doesn't exist in the Azure AD, can't be used. It only knows about accounts within the Azure AD. There are three types of gateways. The on-prem data gateway, the on-prem data gateway personal mode, and the virtual network data gateway, which is currently in preview, so things could change, things could be different. Not going to focus as much on that, obviously. We are going to recommend number one. The difference between number one and number two. Number one allows multiple users to connect to multiple on-prem data sources. Single installation can point to multiple data sources. Well suited where you've got multiple people accessing multiple things. The personal mode is one user to one data source, can't be shared. Can only be used with Power BI, nothing else in the Power App suite. If you are the only one writing reports, if you are the only one who connects to a data source, if you are the only one who's doing stuff, maybe you can consider personal mode. I don't recommend it. We, Senturus, don't recommend it. We recommend using the actual standard mode on-premise data gateway. Okay. So the virtual, multiple users, multiple data sources that are secured by virtual networks. There's no installation with this because it's a managed service by Microsoft. If you have real complex scenarios, real situations with multiple people, multiple data sources, something worth looking into. Again, it's still in preview, so I'm going to focus on number one. All right. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Hopefully we're doing good here. Here's a quick handy dandy chart for you. Everybody knows we like our handy dandy charts. As you can see, the standard mode is really what you want. Standard mode works with all of the cloud services, multiple users. You can do imports and schedule refreshes. It also has direct query support. That's a big one. If you don't want to do an import on this, you can do a direct query as long as you're using standard mode. Same thing with a live connection to analysis services. Can't do that with personal mode. Okay. What about my minimum requirements, you say? First off, where can you get this? You can get it directly from the Power BI service. I'll show you that when I start the demo. Again, I've stressed it already. I'm going to stress it again. Choose standard over personal. Here are the minimum or the recommended requirements. 8-core CPU, 8 gig of memory, Windows Server 2012 R2 or later, and an SSD drive to spool this. Okay. Now, the gateway is not supported on server core installations, okay, not supported in Windows containers. There are some issues, or not issues, but things you want to consider when you install this. The user installing it must be the admin of the gateway. You also cannot put it on a domain controller. Okay. If you're going to use Windows authentication, you got to make sure you install it on a computer that's a member of the same Active Directory as the data sources. And as I already mentioned, and I'm going to mention again, don't put it on a machine that can go to sleep, be disconnected, taken on vacation, etc. Also, you can install other applications on the gateway machine. You're going to see mine. I'm doing this on a Hyper-V. I've got my on-prem and the gateway on the same machine. But just like everything else, it can degrade performance. You know, stop trying to do so much on a single machine. I know who you are. I see you out there trying to put everything on that one machine you found in the back room. If you do install this on if you do install other things on the same machine, monitor it closely. See if there's any resource contention, see if there's any problems. Now, you can actually install 2 gateways on the same machine, one personal, one standard. So you can do that. That's okay. But you can't have more than one gateway in the same mode on the same machine. Okay? Just things to think about. When we install it, we'll get a little app, and we use that app to configure and manage it. Here we can see the status, current settings, we can run diagnostics, set recovery keys, all sorts of fun stuff. When you install it, you are by default an admin of that gateway. Back in the service, you can add more users, rename it, test it, do all sorts of fun stuff. Look, there's me. Yay. And from that same box, we add our data source. So we can add a data source from the gateway. Okay. Ooh, ah. There are some ways to troubleshoot and to monitor this. One of the things that Microsoft stresses is make sure you're updated to the latest version. You can have gateway clusters, and when you start moving into gateway clusters, you want to make sure that all members in the cluster are in sync. Otherwise, you're going to start having problems. You can have unexpected refresh failures because you might have a gateway member that a specific query is routed to that it might not be able to do it because it's a lower version. So when you start moving into clusters, keep track of this. Make sure that every gateway installation is the same version. Make sure everything's good. Now, I downloaded my install file previously. We'll see if a new version is out since I downloaded it. It will tell me. It will tell me if there is a new version available once the installation is complete. And it's going to very, very forcefully recommend that I upgrade to make sure it's a newer version. Okay. There are common errors and solutions on the Microsoft site. If you download this presentation, which the link is in the chat window, you'll be able to use this link, and you'll be able to go to it. You can also get logs from the Gateway app. You can see what's going on. You can export logs out of here. You can do network port tests, all sorts of stuff. All right, we're 20 minutes into it. What do you say I actually show you this darn thing? I know, we sold you an entire seat, but you're only going to need the edge. Dun, dun, dun. As I said, I've got this on a Hyper-V going. First things first, where can you download this from? You can download it from Microsoft's site. I'm also going to put this in the chat window for you. Or, as I said before, you can download it straight from your Power BI service. Look at that. Guess where this takes you if you click on it? Oh, look, it takes you here. So once you've downloaded it, we start our installation. Now I'm gonna actually do the installation while we're going live here. I see all the little you're not paying attention symbols anymore because you're like, well, I'm not gonna watch you install something, but you never know. It could be exciting. It could fail. It's like watching NASCAR. You don't watch NASCAR to watch cars go around in circles. You watch it to see things explode, right? Okay. I'm speaking the truth here. I don't think there's any questions that have come through. I'm looking at the question window. And Penny, thank you. We do way too many have random skunkworks servers. Like I say, everybody's got at least one. Okay, I don't care who you are. I don't care how great you think you are. There's at least one data source that you don't know about it until you know about it. And it's when Phil retires And all of a sudden something stops working and everybody realized that Phil was maintaining a database under his desk for 20 years. So if you're going to go virtual Penny, so the question was, could the gateway be on a virtual server on-prem or an Azure virtual server? I'm actually going to do it on a virtual. So it can be on a virtual box. But remember, think about the impact of that. I wouldn't necessarily use this box that I'm using in a production environment. Okay. I'm doing a Windows 10 with 16 gig and a vert. So you got to take that into consideration. All right, we're almost there, folks. I promise you. Let's see if there's any new, when it's only, you know, Mon, that is a very good question. I actually don't know the answer to that. Steve, if you're still around, maybe you know the answer, or anybody else who's still around to that. When you do this, the question is, when you do a cluster, does each machine have a different gateway name, or is it sharing the same name? If you want to throw the answer either in the chat window or in the question window, that'd be great. All right, come on. Let's go. I do have everything else prepped, and so while we're waiting for that to finish up, let me show you the server. So as I mentioned, I do have a SQL server installed on this same machine. Okay, we're going to be using this same SQL server right here. I'm going to make sure I get my name written down. It's desktop. So we're going to use this, and you will see, Penny, that I'll be able to connect up to this virtual machine. Okay. So, Mon, I did get a response that the other person who's helping me out in the background with questions, they're not sure either. So we'll look into that and we'll answer it in the Q&A that we post up on the Senturus website if we don't get an answer before it's done. Okay, Mon? So here you guys see I've got worldwide importers, everybody's favorite, right up there with AdventureWorks. Nothing fancy. But there's my database, there's my tables. Sorry, I meant to click tables. And I'm going to connect up to these. Okay, so the answer that we're getting, Mon, is when admins select Manage Gateways in Power BI, you'll see a list of registered clusters or individual gateways, but you don't see the individual gateway instances of the cluster. So it looks like the cluster has a single name for the gateways in the cluster. All right. Hopefully that answers. How are you not done yet? What are we doing here? I hope my machine did not die. Wouldn't that be the way of the world? See, I told you don't come to this to watch everything go right. You watch it to watch me make an idiot out of myself. Seriously, you should have been done by now. While that's doing its thing, I'm going to come back in here. And I'm going to show you, we manage our gateways from here. Okay. So now this is the one that I had set up for this, which, was taking its sweet time. But here I would name it. I would set my data source up. You can see I've got my data source set to SQL Server. That's my server name. We're using basic authentication on this one. This is the contact information. This is the department. Once this is configured, I use it like any other data source. So if I look at my data sets, if I go to my workspace and I look at my data sets, I can have a data set that's already set up. and that is already set up to be connected to the gateway. And I can do a refresh on it. I can connect to this, and all I would do, I honestly don't know why this isn't finished yet. I would publish this out, okay? Publish out a report. Now this has been done in import, okay? So I can build a report from it. I can create a report from scratch. So let's go ahead and let's create a report from scratch here. And there are the same tables that you see back here. Sales customers, sales invoices, etc. There they are. There they are. They're all set up and ready to go, and now I can report from them. What I want this to finish, gang, is that I want to be able to see, I want to be able to show you the setup, and I honestly don't know why this isn't finishing. It should not have been hung like this. I know. You're all laughing at me, but it's okay. So let's see if we got any new questions while I'm waiting for this to finish here. Can it be leveraged? Is it pull the information of the data source in the gateway server name? No, you're gonna have to have that information, Lisa. So the question was, can I pull the information in the gateway? I'm going to need to tell it that information. So that's why I had to pay attention to what my server name was here. And I at some point, I really need to change this server name. Because if I don't write it down, I forget it. But you do need to know, the credentials. You need to know the server name. You need to know the database name. As a matter of fact, when I was doing this the other day, I was typing in worldwide importers, and I couldn't get it to connect, and I was going nuts thinking I had something wrong in the password. No, I just typed the wrong name in. So you want to have all this planned out first, okay? And so, Penny, the gateway could be on a virtual server on-prem. Is it better to use that? I don't know. I don't know. I go back and forth on that because I'm old. And honestly, sometimes a standalone machine with nothing else on it that's a little bit smaller can be a little bit better than a big giant virtual machine that's got a half a dozen other things on it, right? It's all a matter of what you've got available to it. But remember those minimum requirements. Server with 8 gig. I think something's wrong here. I don't have anything else going on here. It's not showing up as installed. I don't really want to cancel it and try it again because, you know. But please understand that when I would get this, what I would get next is a screen that I showed you before. I wonder if I can do this. Let's try and do 2 things at once because, you know, why not? Let's live dangerously, shall we? Let's see if I can do a secondary install at the same time. I'm going to try and install it here locally as well, outside of the VM. Let's see if this one wants to go kablooey too. And what else we got? I think that's it. I think that's all my questions. All right. Okay. So let's take a look. There should be one already out here. Let me take a look. If I can't get one other one, Let's see if I have another one going on. Ah! Haha! It finally finished! Haha! Thank goodness. So, as you can see, I'm going to log in with my Azure account. Okay? I'm going to log in with my Azure account. This is the same Azure account I would log into Power BI with. Now, hold on while I go through 73-factor authentication here. Da, 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 da. All right, thank you. Thank goodness. Here we go. When I do an installation, I have the option of registering a new gateway, or I can migrate, restore, or take over an existing gateway. Okay? So if there's already one on here, I could take it over. I could recover damage. I could take ownership. I could do anything I want with it. Okay? So I'm going to register a new one. I'm going to give it a name. Now I could add it to an existing cluster, and I got to come up with a key. Basically a password for this. So that if I do need to restore the gateway, don't do some ridiculous auto-generated silly thing. Make it something that people can actually remember. Make sure they match and that you're not being an idiot. You know, I know today's Thursday, but it certainly feels like a Tuesday. Oh, wait, that was my local one, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Son of a gun. Okay, that was my local one. All right, so the gateway is online and ready to be used. I can send usage information to Microsoft if I so desire. I think we all know how we feel about that. I can create a gateway in Azure if I wanted to, but I am ready to use it with Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI. I can take a look at my service settings where I could restart it. I could use a new gateway account. Here's where the additional logging is, the gateway logs, my port tests, my network settings. So I can use HTTPS or direct TCP. Okay. Here's the connector, and there's that recovery key. So that's that. Once that's there, so now apparently I'm doing this locally. Because why wouldn't I be? I'm going to come up here, manage gateways, and there's my new gateway. So now I can remove this old one if I wanted to. I can add a data source to this old one. So if I'm going to add a data source, tell it what type. Look at all those types. Matter of fact, there's Snowflake. There we go. I'm going to connect it to SQL Server. I would give it a server name. I really don't have one running on this one, do I? Why did this one not finish? I don't think I have my server running on here. So we'll start the local SQL server. Now I've got a local SQL server up and running. I can tell it go to my local machine. Come on, where'd you go? Y'all saw me just start that, right? Not going crazy. There it is. Man, you guys are getting some deep technical questions there. All right, so I do have some local databases. I've got an AdventureWorks 2019. I've got a Go Sales. I've got a finance one. So let's do the AdventureWorks 2019. Windows authentication. And now I'm connected to that data source. And I can use that data source for reporting. Oh my gosh, you're just killing me here. You're killing me. So much easier when I'm showing you reporting type stuff, isn't it? Things that work easier, that work faster. All right, we're going to skip the test. Just skip the test. Okay. So now once that's set up, I can go to the users tab. I can add some other users. So if I wanted to add one of my coworkers, I could easily add my coworker to be part of this. And now they can also use it and they can build reports and they can go. And I'm connected to my local database. I'm connected to this local AdventureWorks database. And I can run a report. And again, I had one set up, this one right here set up, so it's already been published. And you can see that if I want to go to the data hub, I can use this gateway right here, and I can build a report. I can also schedule a refresh for this. So if I wanted to refresh it directly, or if I wanted to schedule a refresh, under here I have to specify the gateway. Okay? So you see that I have to specify which gateway it is. I have to specify the data server, and then I can schedule this as a refresh. And notice that I pick up both of my gateways, the one I just set up and the other one that's going. I don't know why this is being so stupid. It says it's online, I'm good to go, but it's really this that's my problem. Let's see if I can get that one to work. I'm just having a rough day today, aren't I? May your install go smoother than mine. And you see, Lisa, see why you need to have everything written down and everything set up beforehand? Okay? Otherwise, it's just going to be a frustrating time for everybody. I swear that should work, but apparently it's not being happy today. Okay. It's about 2:40. That's what I got for you all to see. As again, Once you get it set up, get those usernames, get those passwords configured, get everything going, you'll be able to use it just like any other one. You can set up refreshes, you can set up schedules for it. There are a few questions that have come through. I'm going to come back to those in a second. Let me go back to this. Look, things you just saw me have an issue with today. Plan this out. Make sure you've got all those names. Make sure you've got all the data, the server's correct. Make sure you've got everything located, all the security. Security is going to be the hardest part. I do see a question about asking if you can configure it to CyberArk. I don't know if you can configure it to CyberArk. Okay. Penny, when you do a refresh, it's going back out to that source. Remember, I did not set it up for direct query. I set it up for import. So it did a one-time pull of the data on when I published it. If the data changes, I need to do a refresh. Okay. And Surica, once the gateway is set up, you can see the name under the Manage Gateways. Basically, the contact information is the name that this gateway was set up under. You see it under both there. So this is the account that it's using, but that's still not my SQL Server login or anything else, and that's what apparently is giving me trouble today, is my actual login here. And I don't know, this one just did not finish ever. I don't know what happened here. Okay. So the contact information, when you manage the gateway, that's showing us what account it was logged in as. All right, did I get everything that hasn't been answered already? What if we installed the gateway as well as the Azure integration runtimes? That's got an answer. Thank you, Bob. All right, but do make sure you plan this out. Make sure you're keeping it up to date. Okay. And for finding troubleshooting, I will tell you that in my experience, the biggest thing I've had to troubleshoot is exactly what you saw me struggle with today. Making sure that I've got all of the right passwords, all the right server names, all of that stuff. And that can be real tricky when it's an older, outdated, different service that, somebody hasn't used. And you got to make sure that it's all current and up to date. Okay. All right, let's wrap this up. We do have some new stuff I want to talk about. We do have a new Power BI Administration and Best Practices class. It is a one-day course where we customize for each organization. We match your environment, and it does include the gateway. So we go through this as a group where everything's already pre-configured and there's no password problems and everybody's happy. Okay? By the way, I want to thank you all for your patience during that. I know that it's never fun watching somebody struggle, so thank you. Okay? You can also check out our full Power BI course catalog at Senturus.com, training courses Power BI. Okay? But if you want to do more with administration, we do have a new class. It's Best Practices, goes into working with data sets, setting up workspaces. It covers all sorts of great stuff, just from taking a tour of this service, setting up a workspace, creating a workspace, working with data sets, the gateway, integrating with teams, etc. Next up. A little bit about Senturus. We provide hundreds of free resources on our website. We've been committed to sharing all of this for over a decade. We've had all this stuff out there. Check out our Knowledge Center under the Resources tab, where you'll also find things like product demos, viewpoints, technical tips, all sorts of things. You can also go to our YouTube channel where you'll find videos, you'll find live streams, recordings. You'll find all sorts of fun stuff. Because, if you want to hear more of my voice. Some upcoming things. On May 12th, we will have a Cognos Analytics performance tuning event. On May 26th, we will have a virtual booth at a virtual conference, the Zero Gravity Conference by Encorda, a modern cloud data pipeline event. Go to Encorda's website for more information. And then I'll be doing this again on May 19th. I'll be doing Power Automate for Power BI. It'll be a webinar on how to integrate Power Automate, which some of you may remember as Microsoft Flow, how to integrate that into a Power BI visualization. We'll be doing data alerts and sending emails and things like that from a Power BI workbook. Okay. Background on Senturus, for those of you who are new, we concentrate on BI modernizations and migrations across the entire stack. We provide all sorts of services, training in Power BI, Cognos, Tableau. We also have proprietary software to accelerate bimodal BI and migrations. We really shine in hybrid BI environments. Some of you may have come to one of our webinars recently where I did demos in all three products, Power BI, Tableau, and Cognos, all in the same webinar. So we do have experience in all of the products. Okay. We've been doing this a long time, over 20 years, thousands of clients, thousands of projects. Look at all these cool people we've helped. Some of you are even on here today. Hello, we see you. I'm sure you'll recognize some of these. But look, we're big enough to be able to handle customers like this, but we're small enough to give you personal attention. We can work with you. We can customize to your needs. If you're interested in joining us, we are looking for a senior Microsoft BI consultant and a senior data warehouse Cognos BI consultant. Job descriptions are on Senturus.com under careers, and you can send your resumes to jobs@Senturus.com. Just think, you'd be able to hear my voice on a regular basis if you worked with us. All right, let's take one final look at the QA. Bob and Steve, thank you for your chipping in there and answering some of the questions. Penny, thank you. I'm glad you have fun. Yeah, sometimes my installs hang too. Okay. But I think that is every question. If anything else comes up, otherwise, look at that. I got you out of here 10 minutes early today. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all for attending. Please come on back to additional webinars and go to our website. And if you want to know more, contact us at info@Senturus.com. We're going to be here to help you no matter what your needs. I'll give it a minute, see if any additional questions come through. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop this broadcast. So thank you all for coming today. There's our phone number for those of you who still use phones. And again, you can get us at info@Senturus.com.